Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Teresa.
And we are the co-authors of the book, Pass the Baton, Empowering All Music Students.
Our goal is to share stories of educators who are passing the baton and empowering their music students. We want to help teachers create music lessons that transform students from passive consumers to vibrant creatives. All right, welcome back, everyone. We are excited to be here with our guest today. But before we get to her, I do want to put a quick plug out. Wherever you're listening or watching, please make sure that you subscribe or follow, leave a review or a rating or comments, all of that. Those things really help get this podcast and get these interviews to new audience members and help spread the message. So we would definitely appreciate that. Catherine and I are excited to be joined today by Melissa Clark. Melissa and I met a couple years ago. I was trying to figure out exactly when at the Virginia Music Educators Conference, and we've kind of kept in touch throughout that time. So welcome, Melissa. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Teresa. Thanks so much, Catherine. So my name is Melissa Clark, and I'm a music teacher in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, which is in central New Jersey, right near Princeton and Trenton, and we're right over the border of Pennsylvania. And I teach 4th through 6th grade strings, and I'm also doing 6th grade general music. And prior to this, I also taught 7th and 8th grade strings at our middle school. And then most recently, I've moved back down to the 4th through 6th grade things. And something really cool about me is that I live in the town that I teach in, which I know is not everybody's favorite thing, but that has given me the opportunity to have my children in my orchestra and be part of the music program. And it's just nice to have us all on the same schedule. So I'm excited for that. And I'm really excited to be on this podcast because I'm a huge fan of Pass the Baton and just love empowering music students and connecting with other music educators. So thank you for having me.
Of course. And I'm going to just add, you have a technology background as well, right? When you were presenting at VMEA, it was on technology stuff. Is that right?
So I got really into technology probably about maybe like 8-9 years ago. I'm very lucky that in my district, we are a one-to-one device starting in the 6th grade all the way up. So there was a big push before it was even, happening in most schools for the technology. So we all have laptops and the kids have laptops from 6th grade up. So I really caught on it very quickly and just love using my tech tools. And so thankfully we have those in our district, and that was before the pandemic. So
yeah, well, and that's been a great way for us to connect as well through this wonderful tech.
Well, I know you've talked about your teaching role and background, and you've talked about student empowerment as something big that's changed in your classroom, but you've done a lot of small things that have made the big difference, right? I think we always think like, I'm just going to do this big thing, and it doesn't always start that way, right? Little small steps. So can you tell us about some of those small steps, or take one project and kind of show us how year to year maybe it changed from years past?
Yeah. So as I said before, we've had these one-to-one devices for a good number of years in our district through a grant. And so when I was teaching middle school, I used to see the kids every other day. So I had a lot of quality time with the kids. And so one of the first things I did that was like very impactful in the program was I had the kids start composing music. And it was a little uncomfortable at first because you're thinking, I'm the teacher, I'm supposed to lead this. And I gave the kids a very basic outline. I want 30 measures and we're going to use note flight. And we used the free version at first because that's what we had. And it then expanded to the kids wrote their own pieces. Then we're trying to play their pieces in class, so we're sight reading. Then we're moving on and we're taking these compositions, and then I let the kids vote on like, which ones did you like the best? And at that first winter concert, I had a piece for each section. So one for first violin, one for second violin, one for viola, one for cello, one for bass. And I gave those kids that opportunity to also like, do you want to play the piece with the section, or do you want to conduct it? And it just kind of like took this whole ownership. And I thought this lesson would take like maybe a week or two. And it going a lot longer, but it was okay because it was so fun because the kids just got so into it. So I was like, well, you know what? They're really into it. So we'll just keep this going. And so that was like the first phase of that. And that was a good like 7-8 years ago. And I remember that concert. It was actually really fun to like sit back and let other kids, like the one conducted the piece, and they were short but fun. And then what we did kind of moving forward with that was our state music ed conference actually had, you could put in compositions for like critique and for a rating. And so then I did that. We put that in, and a handful of kids would put in, and some of them would get gold and some would get silver and some got bronze, but they got really good, meaningful feedback. And what I found was really interesting was my kids that are the better players weren't always the ones that wrote as well. So that was kind of fun to see where that went. And then a couple of years later, I wound up getting my first commission piece with a composer. His name is Raynard Burns, and he was actually, I had done some video chats with him. And so I had reached out and said, would you like to write a piece? And so we wrote a grant. And some of the piece was actually written by the students. So that was kind of fun to kind of see that go full circle. And then the next year, actually, one of my former students who was an alumni who was just graduating from NYU, he wrote a piece and a piano concerto and performed it that next year. So that was even cooler too, just to have an alumni come back to do that. So, you know, I think, again, you don't have to think too big.
Mm-hmm.
So with my composing, we started small and we built. But I'm in the younger grades. My sixth graders wrote some music recently in the fall because I'm on another commission piece in honor of a celebration of life for a little boy that unfortunately lost his life that I kind of knew. So my kids wrote part of it, and we're supposed to actually get this composition like mid-February, early March, and then we'll be performing it in the spring. So I'm kind of excited to see where that goes. So far, the feedback from the composer was that the kid's writing is good and he can put it in there. So, again, it's those little things, just thinking of those little pieces and how you can get those kids to be empowered.
What really struck me, you were talking about how, it started and you didn't expect it would take that long. And I love that aspect of it, right? Where maybe you had a picture in your mind of what was going to happen, but it started going a different direction, and that was okay, right? Like, we don't always have to know what that final piece is going to be, how it's going to end, right? We can work with the students to go through that process. That's really powerful. The other thing that kind of stuck out to me was that you said, the kids who were the really great performers didn't necessarily have as much comfort and success, maybe even, as composing, which means that you were giving some of the kids who were not as strong performing a chance to shine. And they kind of had their moment to be like, yeah, this is what I can do.
And I think they did like enjoy it, like when thinking back and talking to those kids, like, wow, this is really good. What did you do about it? Oh, I just spent so much time. I really liked doing it in class. So I went home and I worked on it.
Aww.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you, because you also like when I was doing it, I was like, oh, this will just be a class project. And then to see a good chunk of them really like get very into it, and what was great with Note Flight, it was so easy. And that was before we even had the site. Then we later I wound up getting a grant to have the site, and now we have the site. And so which makes life a lot easier, because before the kids it was just on their own, and now it's on a site, so I can find their work easily too.
Yeah, what's nice about them, when you said you're kind of currently working on, is the big purpose, right? For writing something meaningful for somebody's celebration of life. How are the kids receiving that? How did that go with them when you were telling them about it?
Yeah, so I waited a while. I finally because I reached out to this school back in end of August. So before we were even in school, I had reached out and they were like, oh, I love this idea. And So we've just been emailing. And so then I wanted to wait to see what was happening. So I kind of waited a little while. Like, we don't start right away in our lessons anyway. So it was October. So when I finally knew what was going to happen, I talked to like my admin about it, and they're like, I love this idea. I think this is wonderful. And I was like, thank you. And I'm even talking to you guys about like, okay, what am I doing about this? It was actually, once we talked about it, when I talked about it to the kids, they were like, oh, yeah, that's nice. Like they seemed to really like appreciate it, that they were like, that we were going to do something special for this kid and this family. So, I actually got a lot of, because I knew the kid's mom. So I like got pictures and I had her make a video and like, so like I got as much like info as I could without like making it painful for her.
Sure.
So, and it's just teaching the kids about empathy,
Sure.
It's like, there's two things in this world we're guaranteed. We're going to be born, we're going to die someday. And so like, I think the ones that got it seem to really get it. And what I was very impressed with some of their writing. I was very like, because they really didn't have a lot of experience with using Noteflight, and I like made a lot of tutorials, and I'm very impressed. So I'm excited to see like what this will look like. It's kind of like this. Oh, let's see what happens. So my other one that I really loved talking about this year is so as I said earlier, I used to teach 7th and 8th grade strings. And one of my former students, who's now a junior in high school and is like amazing bass player, by the way, she's just like a rock star on this instrument. And so we've always had like a very special relationship because she's also, her mom is a music educator. My husband's a bass player. Her mom taught my son, who's a junior. And so like we have this like very special family connection too. And so back in like maybe October, she's like, sends me an email. Ms. Clark, I want to run a club for you at your school. And I'm like, okay, sure. What do you want to do? And so she's like, I want a jazz club. And I'm like, okay, we could, and I want to have girls, and I want to have like young girls, and I want to inspire them. And I want to like, and she had this beautiful, like, I was like, wow, this is an amazing list of stuff that you want to do with these kids. I was like, that's awesome. So, true to who I am, I was like, all right, let's go meet up. When are you free? I know I'm busy too. Let's go meet up. So we met up, talked, and then I told her how to like reach out to email the admin. So she emails them. They love the idea. We go on a Zoom with them. And so this club started like probably like the end of October, and she got in like guest artists on Zoom. She like planned a bunch of games. She tried to teach the kids how to play some jazz standards, which, they're not familiar with jazz, but it was cute and it was fun. And I literally didn't have to do much. Like I knew she was going to come. I knew she was going to be there. She, would send me a little bit of a preview of what she was going to do. She ran the whole thing. I was just there as the advisor. And so that was so cool on my end to be able to just sit back and participate, really. And this student's going to go far. Like I tell her that all the time, So we're on a break just because it's like, now we're back. It's January. There's musicals. There's like not a lot of space. So we're going to go back and do it again, probably April or May. Oh, and she named the club Queen Amina Club, which is like this like lady, I kind of watched a little bit of who she was, but it was just very cool, like how she just named this. And the girls had a great time. And so now, again, my student has high hopes and dreams, and we're very lucky in my district. We have a lot of grant foundations, a lot of grant money when you write well and you submit things. So I'm actually in the process of working with her and a few of the girls on writing a grant to bring in guest artists and have money for this for the spring. So we just had that meeting on Friday, and that was just fun to see like okay, now I need you to go work on this because, we want money. And, and the girls were like coming up with some great stuff. So I was like, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, that's so great that it went from, giving the older students some reign on this club to like her doing that with her club members of like, what do we want for the spring, and kind of writing with them. That's really cool, and that's something that I'm sure she'll take with her if she sounds like she's, might go into music or be a teacher herself. And like, that's awesome that she'll pass that on to her students as well.
It's good to know. I mean, anytime you get to ask for free money, right? That's going to go far in life,
Absolutely. And that says a lot about you, that she felt comfortable coming to you and saying, I want to do this, that she trusted that you would support her and that you would encourage her. And that's a big thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, no, she's a great kid. When I talked to her the other day, I said, is it okay if I share that on the podcast? I don't want to embarrass her, she's 16.
Yeah. Oh, good for her. Great.
Thank you.
Were there any other projects that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I just think like when it comes to like empowering the kids, the most important thing is just really making sure you're getting their voice in there and expression and just knowing what they're looking for. One of the other things I'm doing this year in general music, because I have the kids for trimesters, is I start off with the survey and I just like, what's your name? What's your nickname? What's your pronouns? What do you like to be called? What's your favorite music? And so one of the things I have them doing is they're just writing, they send me 2 links to songs, YouTube links of songs, one representing their culture. So, and we're a very diverse background in my district. So I got a little bit of everything. And so I'm loving the songs that the kids are picking that's representing their culture. And then on the opposite end, I let them pick a song of their choice. What's their favorite artist? Who do they like? Who do they enjoy? As long as it's school appropriate. And then what I do every general music after I greet the kids is I actually just say, I'm like, we listen to a song of choice from the kids. And so like, I didn't have to make up this playlist. The kids already gave me the playlist. So it's like, I go on my Google form and I'm like, okay, we're going to listen to this one's today. And we have a running list in case somebody's absent. There's the links, there's the songs. This is who picked it. And for the most part, the kids seem like kind of excited when it's their song. And I'm just random. I'm not even like going alphabetical. I'm just kind of randomly selecting and making sure I get everybody's in before the time is over. And I find it really helpful. And I'm listening to some really great music I would have never listened to that the kids gave me. So I'm like, bonus, great. Less work for me.
Yeah, they always seem to love that. I did that with like have them put movement. They picked a song but put movement, and it was like when we were on Zoom last year all year, we always just started with someone's movement piece, right? And everyone, they love that. Like it's just something super fun that that really just puts a smile on the kid's face when it's theirs. It's nice.
Exactly. Thanks.
So how have you seen these small shifts benefit the students? Like obviously they're having fun. That's a big part, but what else have you noticed?
Yeah. So with the club, with my student, what was fun about that is to see these connections with the kids, they're looking up to her. Like they really like her. At the end of the club, she'd be like, fist bump or a hug. And a lot of the kids just gave her hugs. They just love seeing her. And then what I told her too is that I remember you as a 7th and 8th grader who could never turn in your work. And here you are planning clubs for me now, and it's like, that's just so fun to see that shift. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to do any of that work. It's all them. So, and that's what it is. It's when you can start to get the kids to do some of the work, it just feels so good. It's so empowering, because you're like, oh, good. It's less on me and more on them. And they want to do it. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been noticing.
Yeah, I wonder if you feel like, so like to me, it's like the work was just preloaded, right? Like you worked for her to come and ask you to do this club, like Teresa was saying, like she knew she was comfortable asking you. So I feel like it, in your classes, you're preloading a lot of this, like getting, working together, collaborating, creating, all those things. And then it is wonderful once the kids have that confidence to do it. Like it does then feel like you could just take that step back. And so instead of the constantly, I don't know what it is, like constantly managing them, right? You've like preloaded all of that ahead of time or, in years past. And now it's like you could just watch the benefits of your excellent teaching, and that cultivating of that culture. And then it's such a rewarding feeling, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, even just like my little beginner string players, right? Like they started in October. Here we are, January. And the kids I'm like, okay, because after a while you get tired of saying the notes of the song because you do it, a bunch of times in the week. And so now I'm just like, hey, who wants to lead it? And they're all raising their hand. Mm-hmm. They're all excited. They want to be in front of the classroom, like, go for it, because after a while, you also just like, I'm tired of being in the front. Could somebody else be in the front? So,
yeah. And you can see so much from the side, right? Because like now somebody else is leading and you can it just reminds you of, what it feels like to be the learner. And also, what are the other learners around you doing, because you can hear them from a different part of the room,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Thank you.
So of course we would, we consider you an empowered educator. What are ways that how do you, what's your professional development like? What do you do to keep going?
So first of all, I just love our friendship that we have between the three of us. It's definitely evolved over the pandemic, which is a good thing because, we need more of each other during this crazy time. So I use Twitter. I actually looked up my Twitter. I said, how long have I been on this? It's like 11 years. I was like, I've been on this for 11 years. I was like, wow. And, again, it was a lot of that. We were doing a lot of PD in our district for the talent. They called it Talent 21 grant. And so like, that was one of them. It was like, you go on Twitter and set up an account. And so I love Twitter. I mean, you sit back, you look at things, you steal ideas from other people, you listen to a podcast, you're now following that person. You're tweeting out that you were just listening to this and you sent it to somebody else. And it's just like those connections. And we have a lot of teachers in my school that are on it. And I want to know what they're doing in their classroom because I'm doing my stuff in my classroom. And so now I know what they're doing and I can like it and like have a little conversation with them in the hallway. Like, I saw you're doing a STEM thing. I'm doing a STEM thing. Maybe we should do a STEM thing together. And it's very empowering and it's free. There's nothing, you don't really have to share much and you get a lot of information that can really benefit you and your students, and so that's one thing I love. I love the social media aspect of things. We did a book study over the summer and if you guys didn't tag me on it, I probably was like, oh, this is a week after school gets out. I don't have the capacity. And then I was like, oh, but they're fun and they're nice. No, this is good. Just go get this book. And so then we were connecting with the author, right? Yeah. He was loving it. And you were teaching me how to do the little book snap. Like, oh, this is great, So
yeah, and we learned real fast, like you don't have to be in the same state to do a book study, right? I mean, we were all in different time zone states and still made it work. I sat outside of my patio while we were doing our book studies, which was lovely.
Yeah. And some days I was reading up to the last minute, but busy mom life, busy. Yeah. And so that was okay too, and that was structured. And so it was just enough structure that you're like, I'm ready.
Mhm.
Then, my other thing I love is presenting. Love presenting. So, I met Teresa at VMEA I think it was about 4 years ago. I started putting in the where will they let me go? Where will they give me time off? And so I went to Virginia. I went to Ohio, where I actually have cousins that are music teachers. So we all went together. So that was like a little girls' weekend, at the Ohio PD, New Jersey, which is where I'm from. And then I also I went to Texas. I went to the NAFME in service in Texas, which was really fun. I went to that twice, and I'm looking forward to expanding. I mean, obviously, I'm never going to get to all 50 states, but I'm definitely looking to expand a few more next school year. Next month, New Jersey, we're back. I'm excited. So I get to see my people, and I have 2 presentations. One of them is on your book, and it's actually with one of my colleagues in the district who's an elementary music teacher. And we're going to present together because we had already presented to the music staff before school started and had you guys on. And so we're presenting next month, and we wrote a grant to get your book to all the music teachers. And I think the ones that were there that day really had great ideas, and it was just a nice way to collaborate and start the year off fresh. And what can we do better, with these kids? So yeah, those are my big ones. The PD is really presenting. It gives me a lot of reward. So, from presenting, it's a lot of extra work. It's, you got to get your Google Docs, you got to put in your submissions, you got a lot of steps. But I come back not only recharged, but I also feel like even if one person listened to something I did and could apply it to their classroom, I feel like I'm able to help their program as well. And that's kind of who I am. I'm always been about looking out for everybody else. So, that was exciting. So yeah, and JMEA next month, end of February, and we also have I have a presentation with the student teacher I had last year who was completely virtual with me. And we just had the best time. So I was like, come, let's present together. And he's like, oh, yeah. So we got to work on it together. But I'm excited to see him. And now it's his first full year of teaching and in a pandemic. And, I'm just excited to see where that goes. So,
yeah. I feel like presenting is kind of like blogging and writing, because I have to really reflect on what I do before I can talk to somebody else about it, right? Like, here are these things that I do, and I'm going to tell you about it so that hopefully it can help you. But let me figure out first exactly what steps I take and exactly why am I doing this? And I love that part of the process. And I found that so often in presentations, I'll be talking about okay, so here are some great ways to give voice and choice. What do you guys think? And then somebody will raise their hand with an idea that I've never even thought of. It's yes, this is so good. Because I can learn from them. We can learn from each other. So it's like the classroom, right? We're not the ones that have to stand in front and just dispel information to the children. We can all be learning together, and we can all, go on this journey together. And I love that.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give a teacher interested in giving, students more ownership in their classroom?
Definitely work on the relationships. I mean, that is something in my previous school, my principal was always big about. You got to get those relationships first. The kids need to know who you are and know your expectations, and then the kids, and you get to know them. And once you can start to get those relationships, you should hopefully get more control over and be able to let the kids lead. It's just little things in the spring I'll let them pick a few pieces. Obviously, I'll pre-plan what they are, like let them pick, and you'll be surprised. They're going to want to practice it more if you get to pick that. And just asking them to help and lead. If you have clubs, get kids to be involved with your clubs. Get older kids. Get those kids that were in your classroom. Like, get them back in, just keep those connections going and just learn to support one another. Find out how you can support the kids, how the kids can support you. How, it's all win-win. If everybody stays together and connects, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So true.
Definitely agree. So how could someone connect with you and learn more about what you're doing and just, join your PLN?
Yeah, just go on my Twitter. It's just Clark, LIS, music. I also have an Instagram that I try to post pictures of some of the activities we're doing. I'm a little more on the Twitter stuff, though. So you can always email me. Teresa and Catherine have my email address. I love hearing from people. I love to present. If you know of your conference and you think I could go to your conference, send me like the link, because sometimes it's just knowing about things.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go check out some more parts of the country. It was fun, especially going to different states. It was much different than what I was used to. So but it wasn't bad. It was just different. And so I felt like I could even learn more by going to new places. And of course, who doesn't love to leave their state a little bit and get time, a little like a vacation a little bit, Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll be sure to put links to your social media and then your email as well, so people can get in contact with you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and share all the fun stuff going on in your classroom. We really appreciate it. So until next time, have a good one. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
We'd also love for you to consider sharing this podcast with a friend and leaving a positive review. That's one of the best ways to get this message to new listeners.